Good evening, everybody, and welcome. Welcome to SAFRL on a Monday night for Tier 1, Season 5, Round 2. We are in Melbourne, Australia, at Albert Park. Your championship leader, winner, and pole taker from the previous round is not present. Does give everybody else an opportunity to claw back those points. We have some of the first action out on track. We have Tiago. Obviously, parts of this circuit can be considered a street circuit, open as public roads when not used for motorsport events. And obviously the relocated Australian Grand Prix. The Australian Grand Prix used to be in Adelaide, and that was a tight, twisty, Monaco type street circuit. Quite a few drivers out now on the circuit. Let's bring up some info on your screens. Obviously just the short qualifying session. So just 18 minutes to get out there and do the best lap you can. You're going to get a few opportunities at doing it. Obviously the track a lot quicker since its alterations. Earliest predictions I've got so far for pole position are a mid to high 16. Yet to see a lap time just yet. We'll see how close we get to that, or do we go beyond that? Ooh, and we've seen our first crash. We've seen a crash. We just happened to be on that car, and that's a nasty one. And that is Tiago Maestro. He's gone. No lap time from him. First one to retire from the session. So unless anybody gets BSQ'd in this session, he will start from the very back. Welcome to Tian there in the comment section. Thanks for joining. First lap time of the night, 1:18.7. That is by Shane. He goes P1 for the time being, but for how much longer? Because lap times are going to start coming in. Who's going to be next over the line? Is that Shakes? That is Shakes. Shakes now over the line. Is this a fast lap? I believe that's just another out lap. I keep on catching them at the wrong time. Let's ride with Notsumi, see what he can do. One of the two Red Bull drivers on the night. The other one being Pampun. Second lap time of the night. It's definitely Duke. He goes into provisional pole for the briefest of moments. A 118 flat. Immediately beaten by Cheddar. That's a 117.6. And we get another 117.6, just 500ths between the two. That is your front row for now. Who else is out on circuit? We've got Don Rabico. He's just gone purple. He's just gone purple in Sector 2. This is a lap time to watch. Keep your eyes on the Alpha Tauri. Now he's going to get a bit of traffic. Hopefully he doesn't get in the way. All seems fine for now. Just needs to go through this final complicated bit. Just going to go over the main straight now, over the line, see what he can come up with. He was purple in sector 2. And it's good enough. It's good enough for provisional pole. A 1:17.2. Fastest lap of the night. By 2.5 tenths of a second. So that is the gauntlet thrown down. Time to beat 1:17.2. Alpha Tauri. Don Robico. Rumours about Alpha Tauri for next season. At first, looked like Hugo Boss was going to be taking over the naming rights, but apparently there is another big brand after the naming rights of Alpha Tauri. That is Adidas. So we're still waiting for the official name of that team next season after a very short-lived period as Alpha Tauri. What was that, 3 years? Sims goes fastest, 1:17.1. Just dethroning the Alpha Tauri. Almost exactly by 100th of a second. Time's really close at the front. Great to see. It's something we saw last week. Close times. Good to see that aspect carried over into round 2. There is the second McLaren going through sector 3 as we speak. His teammate on provisional pole. Time to beat 17.1. How will he now stack up against his teammate? He goes P11, 1:18.9. Still waiting for a lap time from both Mercedes drivers. It's Midas and F1 Logic, both out on circuit, looking for their first lap times of the evening. For the time being, this is your provisional pole sitter. He's on his way into the pits. A 1:17.1. 9.5 minutes remaining. So we will definitely see him have another go, defend that provisional pole. Django has put his Williams up into P3. Getting close to those pole time predictions. Prediction was between a 1:16.8 and a 1:16.6. So does somebody have another 3/10 of a second? Then we'll have a pretty spot on pole prediction. Midas has set a lap time. 1:17.8, good enough for 7th place. Let's see who's the driver not to set a lap time. Sitting in the pits, that's Buffelsfontein in the second Ferrari. No lap time from him. Shane out on track, that first run. Not what he would have wanted. 1:18.7, good enough for 14th, wants to get himself up the field. He's out on his second run. Not through me on what appears to be an in-lap. These two Mercedes put themselves into 8th and 10th. So the only driver not to set a lap time is Buffelsfontein, and obviously your retiree retired very early on in qualifying. Didn't manage to get a lap time in. It's going to start from P18. The only way he'll start higher than P18 is if somebody gets DSQ'd. Obviously, everyone that's watching, thanks for joining us. You've joined with just over 6.5 minutes remaining in qualifying. And you've just seen Shakes take provisional pole, a 1:16.9, first driver into the 1:16s. That demotes Simps into P2. We have a AlphaTauri second row so far. It's almost identical lap times, look at that. Just under a tenth between Cheddar and Don Rabico. Then we've got Pompun, the first of the two Red Bulls, making up the top 5. Django 6th, Duke in 7th, Long Nai 8th, It's Midas P9, and then wins it. He's making up the top 10. Provisional pole sitter 1:16.9. Who's up for the challenge? Times are so close that if you're in P5 and find off a second, you're going straight into P1. So obviously the Australian track here, Albert Park, slightly modified for the past 2 seasons or so. It's approximately, what is it? It's not much shorter, trust me. But it is much quicker. It makes the lap time that much shorter. Before the redesign, lap time that stood for, I believe, 15 years or almost 15 years was Michael Schumacher. And that was I believe that was a race time lap record, but a 1:24. And then as soon as the track was changed, the next best race lap record was a 1:20. So immediately 4 seconds off that lap time. Mercedes still out on track. Ooh, and we've got a McLaren going the wrong way in the background. Not sure what happened there. We have a McLaren facing the wrong way. I do see Simps is on an outlap. His teammate in the pits, so that was Simps. Midas has entered the pits. Let's go back to Simps, see if he goes into the pits. He does. He goes into the pits, gives up on that lap, spun on his outlap. Now we ride with Shane. Hasn't really put in a fantastic lap so far tonight. He's on an outlap. 3.5 minutes to go. This may be his final run. Windsor's currently P10. 1:17.8. And look at that. I was about to say he'd want to improve, but he improved by a whole lot. Look at that. Pass up into P2, 1:17.1. Sims remains in the pits for now, as does most of the field. All we have is Django, Shane, and Wizards out on track. Now Bosveld as well. But Wizards will be very happy with that final stint. I believe that will be his final run. 2.5 minutes remaining, no time to get back in and back out. So whoever's out there right now, this will be their final attempt. Winston's on an in-lap. Whole handful of drivers on out-laps. I think the only driver on a fast lap right now is... It doesn't look like he's on a fast lap. Seems like he's completely backed out of that. So maybe an invalidated lap. Shane has started his final attempt at a fast run. He's entering into sector 2 now. Currently P14. Didn't get the lap he would have wanted in the first run. We didn't really see what happened in the second run, but he may have abandoned it because he was not able to improve. And now it will all come down to this for the Alfa Romeo driver. Currently the second Alfa Romeo in the lineup, his teammate up in P9. That's Langnaya, 117.6. Just over a second faster than this man here. So he'll be going over the line, hoping for a much cleaner, faster lap time. What does this do? Goes over the line, he does improve. To just behind his teammate. 1/10 of a second between the two Alfa Romeos. Have Shakes out on track. Your current provisional pole setter, ooh, getting it out of shape. His best time was 1:16.9. Did well to catch that. Car got really out of shape. He's going to get a lot of traffic now. A lot of cars just leaving it right to the end, and sometimes what happens is you just get this train. Sims goes into the pits. Shakes goes into the pits, apologies. Sims is in P3 on a 1:17.1. All he needs is 0.2 of a second. That'll put him on pole. Where do you find the 0.2 of a second? That's the real question. Goes around the penultimate corner, now into the final corner. Is he able to improve? Goes over the line. Ooh, and he's gone over the line in a big way. Not able to improve. Logic P3. Is this Cheddar? Cheddar over the line. He's going to remain 5th. Where's his teammate? Teammate's just behind him. Currently P6. Don Rabico, 1:17.2. On par with his teammate, down to 1/10 of a second. Can he improve? He does not improve. He stays P6. Pampun does improve. He goes up to P3, 1:17.1. And how many drivers do we have in the 1:17.1s? We have 4 drivers in the 1:17.1s. 4 drivers covered by 0.08 of a second. Still out on track is Django, but he's not going very quickly over the line, so that suggests he's given up on that. And I think everybody else has taken the checkered flag. So pole prediction within the 10th. Well done. There are your results for qualifying. Obviously, just the one qualifying session. Shakes, he takes pole position with a 1:16.9, only man in the 1:16s. Then we have Wizards in P2, Pampun P3, Logic P4, Simps making up the top 5. All 4 of those drivers in the 17 ones. Then we have Cheddar P6, Don Rabico P7, It's Midas P8, Django P9, Duke makes up the top 10, Natsumi P11, Langnai P12, Shane in 13th, Bosveld 14, Brands 15, Willis in 16, Buffelsfontein P17 without setting a lap time. And then we have Tiag, the only retiree from qualifying. He will start at the back of the grid. Welcome back. Welcome back. Season 5, Round 2. We've just finished watching qualifying. And now it's time for why everyone's here. It's time for the race. Obviously a 50% distance race. Here in Albert Park. Guys going through their final strategy adjustments, what tyre to start on. And that was quick. 5 red lights. And we're underway. And we're underway without any problems. Fantastic to see. Now let's see what happens here into turn 1. Really important part of this racetrack on lap 1. See a bit of ghosting. Don't know if that was a knock or if that was a internet issue. It seemed like the McLaren took a little bit of a knock, but no visible damage. Good start. Shakes has made up a position. He's passed Simps on the race start. Logic also now making up a position. Looking at the tyre situation, looks like everybody inside the top 10 going with the exact same thoughts. Everyone starting on a set of medium tyres. Then outside the top 10 seems like the soft is the more popular compound. Running around in 18th we have Willis. He's currently just gone up into P16. He's the only man on track on a set of hards. We see Shane has fallen to the back of the field. We go and have a look what's happened to the Alfa Romeo driver. He has definite front wing damage. He does dive into the pits. The one positive he can take out of this is he chose to start on the soft tyre. If he had chosen to start on the hard, you have to throw that tyre away on lap 1. Safety car on lap 1. Bosveld. A Ferrari driver's luck. Bosveld becomes the first DNF of the night and becomes the reason for the first safety car of the night. So we were just focusing on the Alfa Romeo of Shane. He would have been worried about that pit stop at the end of lap 1, having this whole queue of cars running away from him, needing to catch up for the rest of the race. This will allow him to catch the back of the queue. It's a really early safety car though, so I don't think we're going to see a whole flood of cars into the pits. maybe a little later on, lap 5, lap 6. Obviously no one in the top 10. I don't think he's going to fit. They're on a brand new set of mediums. Still looking to get a lot of life out of those tyres. Gotta say, those two strategies that they just showed us on our screen, they don't make much sense. The first one does. The alternate one makes me say, but why? Started with 18 drivers, we're down to 17. We have lost Bosveld on lap 1 of 29. Some quiet time now for everyone for a couple of laps behind the safety car. Get yourself all worked up at the start of the race, and then this happens immediately into the race. Sometimes you can just lose a bit of concentration at the restart. Just miss a braking point you've never missed before. Do something silly. So important to keep your concentration even when you're driving around slowly in single file. We've just seen a ignoring yellow flags. That is for the other remaining Ferrari. So that is for Buffelsfontein. Let's just see what the penalties are about exactly. Simps does have a penalty. That seems to be a standard corner cutting penalty, 3 seconds. And Buffelsfontein 5 seconds for ignoring yellow flags. Or speeding under yellow flags. If you're just joining us, lap 4 of 29, we are under safety car conditions. We've got a DNF towards the end of lap 1, that was Bosveld. And that caused a safety car to come out. A safety car that I believe will be ending shortly. Seems like the whole queue is back together. We're on lap 4. And hopefully this is the last time we get to see the safety car. Ooh, don't know what's happening there. I'm actually seeing a few position changes under safety car. That's not normal. Hopefully we don't see a whole handful of penalties pop up. Safety car staying out. So have 2 cars there adrift. It's Buffelsfontein with that 5-second penalty, and then Thiago in P17. He obviously had that big crash in qualifying. Put him out of the session before he was able to set a lap time. So if he's going to get a decent result out of this race, it's going to have to be a very entertaining race from himself. Seems like we have a problem with Django. Django has left the session. Django has left the session. Hopefully this is the final lap under the safety car. Feels like I've said that before. But this time the queue is all together. And surely this time around we can get back to racing. Obviously the safety car having a very different effect depending on where you are in the race. If you're leading, trying to build a gap, trying to break DRS trains, safety car comes out, ruins everything. If you've had a bad start, find yourself at the back, safety car brings you back into the race. So some will hate it, some will love it, but we're coming to an end of the first safety car of the night, and we're going to get our first restart of the night. Wizards, he decides when to go, and he has decided to go on the exit of the final corner. Gets a jump there on the Red Bull driver of Pampun. Looks like everybody getting through turn one nice and clean. No issues into turn one. Back at the front of the field, Wizard still leads the way. Important now for everybody just to settle down back into the race. Don't get too excited. Don't get too excited at the start. Sometimes it just feels like it's the best opportunity to make overtakes is right at the start. You get a little too aggressive, a little too greedy. You lose an end plate and it's all for nothing. But now Pampun thinks about going down the outside, thinks better of it, then thought about the inside. Just putting his nose left and right, letting Wizards know he's there. That was either an internet glitch or that is the horse coming under some serious pressure. 5-second penalty, ignoring yellow flags. Not Shumi, as well as I believe it was Django. So those two getting penalties almost simultaneously. It seems like Pampun has just dropped off a little bit. He was all over the back of the horse. Does get fastest lap though, a 120.9. Faster than I can go in quali. Don Ravico was strong in qualifying, still strong in the race, P4. Simpson P5, but he's got that 3-second penalty very early on in the race. That's going to hang over his head. And he'll be hoping it doesn't evolve into a bigger number over the course of the race. Cheddar in the second of the two AlphaTauris. Good job so far. P6 early on in the race. A little further back. Got the pairing of the two Mercedes-Benz running line astern in their own little race. P9, the second Red Bull, sure he'd be like to be up the field where his teammate is, Pampun. Quick driver just looking for a way past now. Sets the fastest lap of the race, and his next target will be the two silver arrows in front of him. First it's Midas, then F1 Logic. A driver on the move looking to get his way through the field. Speaking of Red Bull, we've had a position change at the front. Pampun now in the lead of the race by almost a second. That has to have been a mistake from Wizards. Maybe just leaving the circuit. Maybe it was a pass. But for the gap to almost be at a second, and now look at that, it looks like he's struggling. Does he have damage? Doesn't appear to have damage, but almost got completely swamped by an Alpha Tauri and an Alpine simultaneously. Led this race, and now he'll just want to calm down and chase that Red Bull in front of him. Almost losing P2 there. The top three, Pampun, Wizards and Shakes. Sims just off the podium in P4, but remember he's got that 3-second penalty next to his name. Then we have the two Alpha Tauris. As I say that, one of the Alpha Tauris goes for a move, nicely done. Does he get past the Alpine? Allows him barely enough space. The Alpine would have got a tyre there on the grass. And that might be a little controversial because that led his teammate through as well. So Shakes has lost not one, not two, but 3 positions. Logic was also able to squeeze through. Not Shumi in P8. But he also has a 5-second penalty to worry about. He just gets past the spinning Alpine of Brands. We have a yellow flag, it's been cleared. Every time I see the screen go yellow, I think safety car. But with that Alpine spin, means Natsumi is up into P7. We have position changes here. Ooh, and we have an Alpha Tauri and a Mercedes-Benz spinning each other around. And that's going to be 2 pretty annoyed drivers. They're having some fun, some good racing. But that's what happens sometimes. Get a little too close. And both of you find yourselves facing the wrong way. That has been beneficial to the likes of the second Red Bull driver, Natsumi, now into P5. Red Bull having a good night, P1, P5. His next target is quite a ways up the road now. 2 point... is that just under 3 seconds? So that'll be his next target, close that gap. If he can get past the Alpha Tauri, see if he can become the second Red Bull on the podium tonight. We can't get too ahead of ourselves, still a long way in this race, and Pampun is coming under pressure. Wizards all over the back of Pampun, Simps all over the back of Wizards. The top 3 close as it could be. It's lap 11. See now with the cars getting DRS, it's going to be the most difficult place to be is to be in the lead. You're the only car out of these 3 that's not going to be having DRS, it's not going to be getting that boost. You're all on your own. And you have to defend from not 1, but 2 very angry cars. Pampun around the final corner to go over the main straight. Simpson second place, Wizards P3, so those 2 have swapped positions. Now the McLaren all over the back of the Red Bull. Had his DRS open, got really close, decided to just follow the Red Bull through on turn 1. didn't go for the pass. Thinks better of it. Since the modifications to this circuit, there are some very fast parts of this circuit. So just really need to stay on the gearbox of the car ahead of you. And the rest is inevitable. But we have a virtual safety car. Retirement is Cheddar and AlphaTauri. Becomes our second DNF. We're down to 16 drivers. Virtual safety car will neutralize the speed. Doesn't necessarily neutralize the race the same way a safety car does, but it does give you an average speed that you have to stick to, a time delta you have to stay within. And also maybe an opportunity for some cars to dive into the pits. Didn't see anyone in the pits, and the virtual safety car is over. Bumpun leads the way from Sims. Sims getting really close, right on the gearbox. Wizards just keeping a safe distance from those two. If anything happens between those two, he's close enough to capitalize and far enough to avoid the incident. Just under a second down the road from two cars that are going at it corner after corner. Hopefully a mistake is not what's going to decide this battle. So easy. Just get a little greedy on the brakes, brake a little later than you should. Go a little too early on the accelerator. So much can go wrong when you're pushing. And now Sims becomes the leader of the race. Bumpun dives into the pits. I believe he may be the first of the runners on mediums to have reacted. He's going to emerge from the pit lane on a set of hards. How do the other drivers react to this? Sims has taken the lead. Wizards also stayed out. He's gone out into P2. Are you able to stretch this medium out enough to finish on a set of softs? I don't know. Should be interesting to see who's going to do what strategy over the next couple of laps. We have penalties. We have penalties up and down the field. Sims P2. Remember, he got that 3-second penalty early on. And that has doubled to a 6-second penalty. Wizards P2 also a penalty. So you got to say at the moment, Bumpun in a very strong position. He's got to just keep that penalties column next to his name as clean as can be. It's Midas fighting it out with the Duke. Midas decides, no more of that. I'm going to the pits. Whole bunch of drivers in the pits, so a whole bunch of position changes now. Aston Martin's looking really good at this point in the race, 3rd and 4th. But Duke would be a lot happier if he didn't have 8 seconds next to his name. Some really, really rough penalties on the night. A lot of those penalties will get cancelled out, obviously, as guys do their pit stops. they'll be able to serve those 5-second penalties. Do we want to watch Simps here around this final section of the track? Is he going to react to Pampun and dive into the pits on the very next lap? Yes, he does. He had me questioning it there for a second because he turned in at the very last moment, and as does Winzits. So out of the top three, Pampun was the first one to pounce, came in for a set of hards. And now Simps and Winzits have reacted to that. Have they all gone for the same set of tyre? No, they have not. So we have Simps and Winzits. They emerged from the pits on a set of softs. Pampun was the first one to pounce, but he put on a set of hards. The race is just over halfway distance. So surely now at the start of this stint, they will have the advantage, they will have the superior grip. But as the laps tick on, those tyres will surely fall off a very long time before the hards do, and the pendulum could surely swing in the other direction. It's going to be an interesting race for Pampun. His job now is to keep things steady, keep things consistent, and when those softs ahead of him do drop off, he can make the most of it. Simps is your leader on that brand new set of softs, but he's asking a lot of those softs. It's going to take them pretty deep into this race unless he intends to stop again. And if he does want to stop again, it's going to need about 20 seconds for a pit stop and another 6 seconds to cancel out his penalties. The Aston Martins, P2, P3, looking strong, both yet to pit. Duke on a set of mediums, 16 laps old. Tiago on a set of hards, 14 laps old. Wizards has just cleared the first of the two Aston Martins. It's gone up into P3. Now Pampun, he wants to clear the Aston Martins as soon as possible and get after those top two. That is his main competition in this race. And there we go, he's done that. So your top three, Simps, Winzits, Pampun. And it's going to be an interesting race of the tyres. So remember, on tyre strategy, your top three having very different outlooks on things. The top two, both on a set of softs, appear to be on identical strategies, but P3 not far behind and on a set of hards. So while those tyres might be quite difficult to drive on right now, when those softs ahead of him do drop off, I really think he's going to be on the right tyre. But at the moment, just losing time to the cars ahead of him. He's having to defend from Don Rabico, from Tiago, having to defend, having to look into his mirrors, and that's just allowing the top two to get further down the road. Remember, as for the two drivers in first and second, They both have penalties tonight. That is the one advantage that Pampun does hold right now. If he's able to keep that penalties column clear for the rest of the race, massive advantage. Don Rabico in P4, Tiago P5, Brands, he's in P6, Natsumi, real up and down race for him. He's in 7th place, still looking to make progress, looking to get higher up the field. And as I say that, he loses a position. F1 Logic steals P7. It's Midas and Shakes, P9 and 10. We have Shane in the Alfa Romeo, hasn't really had a good race. Didn't get it together in qualifying. Hasn't really been able to come through the field. And his first target would be get in the points and get yourself into the championship standings. Wow. I forgot how to speak English. There we go, that's better. Sims leads the way, and look at that for a lead. 6 seconds is the gap between first and second place, really making use of those soft tyres. Knows how important it is to build that gap as much as possible, needs to cancel out those penalties if he's going to hold on to this result. And while pushing so hard, you've got to make sure not to get more penalties. Otherwise, you're effectively pushing your hardest and falling back on the road. Don Rabico, Alpha Tauri giving Red Bull problems. Not sure how Christian Horner would feel about this situation. But Pampun, not happy with the situation, wants to get himself back up into P3. If he's going to have a chance at winning this race, he needs to get himself into P3 and as close to those top 2 as he can to make the most of those penalties. Virtual safety car. 3rd retirement of the night. This time, Alfa Romeo, Langnai. Remember, another thing about these penalties, and as you can see, almost everyone in the field has some form of penalty. If you have a situation where a safety car comes out late in the race, safety car returns to the pits with 2 or 3 laps to go, and this amount of cars have penalties, the cars that have no penalties sometimes find themselves on a shocking podium step. Back to green flag conditions. Winsett leads the way from Simps. Don Rabico P3, Pampun P4. Those two looking to swap positions. Pampun loses another position, does he? No, he doesn't. He gains a position. Fighting with Simps. Simps going the opposite way of what he'd like. Remember, he's on a set of softs. His objective is to get out front and be out front for as long as possible. Keep that gap as high as he can, but he's gone backwards. He's gone back to P4. And those tyres will start falling off a cliff. And he really needed to be out front. Wizards is your leader. And why did I not notice that before? Wizards as a... Is that right? That is right. Wizards, your leader, as a drive-through penalty. Don Rabico, P2, Bun P3, doing what he can to hold on to the back of the AlphaTauri. That is equal pace, P2, P3, both on a set of hards, very similar age, just one lap between them. And Sims, obviously not impressed with what happened a few laps ago. Maybe driving a bit angry. Wants to get himself back up into the top two. But he's got those penalties which right now, if things were to end now, could potentially put him all the way down to 5th. Wizard leads the way, 4.4 seconds. Don Rabico, he's looking to close that gap. But at the same time, he's defending from a Red Bull. Makes things a little bit more difficult. Wizards, your leader, has come into the pits. And there we go. He did have a drive-through. Thought that might have been something wrong on my screens, but yeah, he had a drive-through, which means he's had to come into the pits. He's re-emerged in 4th place, and that has handed the lead to Don Rabico, who doesn't have a massive lead. So the race is on. 5 laps to go. Half a second covers the top two. We have an Aston Martin in 3rd. Crucial thing about those top 3, they have no penalties. The only other driver on track with no penalties is Shane. Every other driver on the circuit has incurred some sort of penalty. 14 drivers remain of the 18 that started. Retirements: F1 Logic, Langnau, Cheddar and Bosveld. Times at the front between your leaders still close, 0.6 of a second, 0.5 of a second. Nothing in it. Pampun staying in the DRS of the AlphaTauri. He'll be comfortable so long as he can stay within the DRS. Thiago, who was in the top 3 with no penalties, he has dropped down to 5th place. Wizards recovering his podium position. Oh, and we have a Red Bull was making so much progress. And we join Natsumi as he's facing a barrier rather than the right way. Luckily no damage that I can see. He's in P7. But definitely lost some momentum, was making serious momentum into the top 5. And then a spin coming at the wrong time. Pampun P2, Don Rabico leads this race. Remember, Don Rabico has made up 6 positions to be in 1st place. Not the most positions made on the night. Most positions made on the night go to P4. Thiago Maestro. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. My Portuguese is getting confused with my English. But He's made up 13 positions. In terms of positions lost, it's going to have to go to Shakes in P9. He obviously started from the front. Hasn't been a good race for him. He's gone backwards, but at least still holding on to the points. All important to finish in the points. Don't want to leave the night empty-handed. No real battles to speak of on track right now. As we say that, we spot one. There's not Shumi looking to get past Duke. Wants to get as many championship points as he can on the night. One of only 4 drivers on circuit not to have picked up a penalty tonight, currently P6. That is Shane. That's why you keep on driving, even when the race looks like it's going to go bad for you. Shay didn't expect to find himself in P6 with 2 laps to go. Sims up to P4. But I don't think he's going to have quite enough to catch up to the car ahead of him. Let's have a look at the penalties. And wow. I didn't know it was that bad. Sims may be in P4, but he has 12 seconds worth of penalties next to his name. Next best is Duke in P7. 11 seconds next to his name. Just to bring up the tyre situation here towards the end of the race. Your leaders, Don Rabico and Papun in P2, both on aging hards. Windsor's in P3 on a pretty old set of softs. He did visit the pits recently, but that was for a drive-through, so no change of tyres. And I'm sure now in the latter stages of the race he's feeling the effects of stretching that soft compound. Sims just behind him on a fresher set of mediums. Oh, and that's going to be a questionable one. That's going to be a questionable one. Sims goes up into P3, got really close to the Haas. The Haas came off second best in the battle. And Sims up into P3. But up at the front, Don Rabico still leads the way. Bun doing all he can in the Red Bull. But it looks like tonight, the junior team between the Red Bulls may just have the extra push that they need. Sims in P3, but he's a long way behind the top 2, and he has many penalties. Just have a look at that penalties column again. Windsor has 3. Sims has 12. Difference of 9. That means Windsor will reclaim his pole position. I believe Fernando Alonso once said when referring to Jolyon Palmer, karma. So a little bit of karma. Windsor will, in all likelihood, retake his 3rd position. Django picks up a 3-second time penalty. All the drivers just adding to their time penalties. Sims now getting another 3-second penalty towards the end of the race. Wow, I seem to have missed a few. Sims 21 seconds worth of penalties. He's going to go right to the back of the field. And there we go, lap 29 off 29. We have our final results. Dan Rabico does win the race from Pampun. Technically a Red Bull 1-2, but not quite. Simpson goes over the line in third, but that's purely cosmetic, because we're going to see a change. Wins it P3 after all the penalties. Thiago goes P3, wins it P3, P4, sorry. Shane P5. And does Simps end up in P6? Yes, he does. Stimps P6, Shakes P7, Not Shimmy P8, Midas P9, and Duke makes up the top 10 and the final point. Still waiting to finish the race. We've got a McLaren who gets out of shape, and Wells hasn't done enough to retire the car, but he has lost his front wing, and that's going to allow, is that an AI car? Yes, that's going to allow the AI of Buffelsfontein into P3, and Wells takes a very broken McLaren over the line in P14 and brings home the field. Driver of the day, Diog. Remember, he started right at the back after an early retirement to qualifying. And there we go, there are your official results. Don Rabico doing a fantastic job to win that race, taking 25 points on the night. Then we've got Pampun P2, Thiago in P3, he was the driver of the day. Then Windsors P4, that penalty really coming back to cost him. Shane P5 after a bad start. Sims P6, Shakes P7, Not Shimmy 8, Midas 9, definitely Duke P10. Then missing out on points tonight, we've got Brands P11, Django P12, Buffelsfontein 13, Wells 14, and then retirements, I believe it was Logic, Long Night, Cheddar, and Boswell. Thanks for joining us, and enjoy.